Yeah, a good day was had by all, and there were teams all over town doing various things. As the two Bobs said, it's just a question of quietly doing work and caring for the people in your midst. So speaking of the 30s, actually this is 1942, Humphrey Bogart, he meets Ingrid Bergman in the bistro in Paris and says to her, "Who are you and what were you before? What did you say and what did you think, huh?" What we were before that we are now is what this place is all about, getting back to what is that has always been a family that takes care of each other. In John's Gospel, you remember the beginning says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." And that is why we listen to the Word, the stories in the Bible and the stories that we tell one another. God sent Jesus to help us get back to that simplicity with a love so strong that it took the power right out of death. In this morning's story about Joshua, after 1,000 years of wandering and enslavement, God's promise to Abraham is finally fulfilled, the promise that was given at the very beginnings of our human existence, our human relationship with God. And the promise is fulfilled with a power that holds back rivers, keeps the water from flowing, and brings us home to that Canaan land where we're all headed one way or another. Speaking of going home, perhaps you knew this was coming. We talked about Moses being the Albert Pujols of his day the other day. And of course, that saga played itself out in an even better way because the real hero in St. Louis is a guy who is from St. Louis, a young guy who went to high school there and came home in more ways than one and won that series for them or helped them win it. David Freese, his name is. And it's just a beautiful story of how coming home, baseball in and of itself is all about coming home. And he really did it. So, Freese achieved his homecoming in a literal way, but also the figurativeness of baseball. And we get to Jesus' gospel this morning. Jesus talking in Matthew about the teachers, the scribes and the Pharisees, and the wrongness and the folly of following people just because of what they say, just because of how they behave and how they gratify themselves with wealth and power, but fail, sometimes horribly, to care for those people in their midst, to fail in caring for the people around them. And what we've heard, the two Bobs, is very much about this, both caring for people in your midst and also allowing yourself to be cared for as a way of giving to your community the opportunity of participating in that caring, to desire to be cared for and to do some caring, to talk about it, and then to actually go out and take action in doing this very thing, in caring for and giving to one another. That's where the meaning of the community is, and that's what we have to carry in our hearts and bring to this place each time our thoughts stray to our spiritual life. And of course, it's also about money. At this time of year when we're turning in our cards and thinking about how much money we'll be able to devote to the community throughout the year, it's a tough time. But we have to do what Paul urges and also models us to do. We have to work harder than ever at this. So if you haven't turned in your card, please do, so that we can be bold and make a budget. But more importantly, joy and revel. Revel in this desire that we have to fulfill Paul's urgings and his modeling, to fulfill that ourselves, to witness to one another, to care for one another, to encourage one another, to love one another. This is the way back to what is that always was. This is the way to be safe at home. And it's not about loud talking. It's not about great shows or sound and fury signifying nothing. It's about quiet assistance and humble caring and joyful interaction. this is home for us. Paul Simon's song says it maybe best when he sings about home, where my thoughts keep straying, home, where my music's playing, home, where my love life's waiting silently for me. That's where we are, and that's what we do. We help each other come home safely. Amen.